Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another podcast. Getting this thing rolling. Today, I have my friend Brenda Jones. Brenda, how's it going?
I'm good. How are you? Thanks for having me.
I'm doing good. So where are you at? You're in California, right?
Yeah, I'm in Orange County, California, Southern California.
Okay, probably got some nice weather right now.
Actually, it's kind of been sucking. I don't know. It's weird.
Really?
It's been like kind of tropical too. So,
Nice.
but it's supposed to be warm today, like 82.
Okay, cool. I love California. I need to get back out there. Um, so Brenda, you're like one of my first friends in sub two.
Yay.
And then
Same.
we gotta meet in person in like what is that, like a month and a half ago in Kalispell
Yep.
community camp. So what was let's just jump right into this. What was some of your big takeaways from community camp?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I was really grateful to have been chosen, right? Like, I think the challenge was whoever was the most active within the group, right? So that's something that I know I can control. So I was just trying to always be visible, responding to other people's posts and posting my own posts as well. So, yeah, my biggest takeaway is, when you're trying to develop a relationship, it really makes more of an impact in person, right? Like we can do these Zooms and podcasts and whatnot, but like I think we obviously got really closer once we actually got to meet each other, spend time together, and now that like we might not see each other often in real life, but we were able to like, solidify that bond. So that's probably the most important thing that had happened over that 4-day span.
That's good. Yeah, and I guess we should clarify. Community camp was something that Pace Morby and Jerry Norton put on to like just bring a bunch of communities together. Jamil's community, Jerry's and Pace's and all those guys.
Yeah.
And so we got invited to that, and I love that you said that because that that was something that was cool for me too. It's like you said, it's one thing to like kind of interact on social media, but when you can like actually like put a face to those people and like spend time with them, it's completely different. And just being in that room for me was like crazy. Just being around people doing things at such a high level was pretty special for me, honestly, because I've been to some other networking things. I've been to some events with speakers and all that, and it's all been great, but like that was just different. So it was good. I'm hopefully it sounds like there might be something like beginning of next year that Pace is doing too. So we'll have to see if we can get to that. But I saw you had like a little speaking thing the other day.
Yes. Yeah. So
Tell me about that.
I'm one of the Orange County JV leaders. So that's just a micro community within sub two. So you don't have to be in sub two or Gator to be a part of it. So it's just, we wanted to, bring people together within that area, right? There's a lot of meetups in LA and San Diego. And if you're familiar with California, right, traffic is not fun. So driving to LA is like 2 hours and driving to San Diego is 2 hours. So there was a need and we filled it. So yeah, I mean, I don't really like public speaking, so I'm definitely trying to get out of my shell and even doing this podcast. So thanks for having me and helping me grow. But yeah, I was able to share my experience, thus far in real estate, in sub two, what my plans are right now and how I can help people within that community. So it was good.
Cool.
One of the tricks that a fellow sub two person shared with me was take off your glasses. And I was like, okay, that's a good idea. And so I actually was just kind of like looking far to the back of the wall. And that actually really helped me. So for anyone who has, public speaking fears, that's a good trick because it helped me.
That's good. I don't know. Like I know that I want to do some stuff like that, but just kind of waiting for. I don't know. Not really waiting for the right time, but just kind of waiting, just trying to find some opportunities to do that because I think that allows us to like get uncomfortable because that's something I haven't done. I know it'll be uncomfortable for me, but so it just allows us to grow and then also just make more connections and help our business and make an impact. So that's cool that you're one of the leaders out there. I'll have to I need to make it out that way, and I'll have to try and get to one. So
Absolutely.
So real estate, what got you into it?
Sure. Yeah. So I actually don't have any real estate experience. I'm a recruiter. I work for a tech company, so I've been doing that for a long time. My story is we were trying to buy a house here in Orange County, and again, if you're familiar, houses are expensive, and we were looking for 6 months, and every time we put an offer in, we were just getting priced out by like hundreds of thousands of dollars, and it was really frustrating. So eventually, me and my husband just gave up, took a break. And, magically Pace showed up in my feed. I don't even know if it was like Instagram or YouTube, but I started following him. And, I was following some other people too, but something about Pace, which I feel like most people, agree with, is that he's really genuine, right? He's not flashy. He wears his jeans, his hoodie, right? He's not flexing a Rolex and a Lamborghini all day, right? And he was the only one that was talking about community, right? Everything else was just, let me teach you how to get rich quick. And, if you're a realistic person, life doesn't work that way, right?
Yeah.
So I kind of sat on that for like 6 months, and I finally just pulled the trigger, and I've been in sub 2 since March. So it's been 5 months now.
Okay, cool. Yeah, it's kind of a little similar with me. Like I kind of found out about real estate. It was kind of like learning, and was busy with some military stuff, so couldn't really focus on it. And I knew about Pace for a little bit. Loved seeing his stuff, and then I just was like, all right, I did my first deal, and I was like, all right, the time's now. Like, and so, which I think, sometimes I'm like, I wish I would have joined sooner. But I also at the same time think it was just in the perfect timing. Like I got my deal, I connected with Kevin and joined sub 2, and just my network exploded like right at the right time, community camp, like all that stuff. So so that's cool. So now did you guys buy this house that you're in right now?
No, this is a rental. This is a rental. Yeah. And now that I've been learning about real estate, like, why do I want to buy a house for myself, right? Just to be cash poor, right? Like I want to buy a rental. Yeah. So I want to make some cash flow.
Yeah. So, isn't that so interesting? Because like when I was getting started, it was like, owning your home, like obviously house hacking is a good way to do it if you are owning a home. But Grant Cardone talks a lot about what you were just saying. Like he's like the first person that was like, why would you buy a house? That's stupid. And I'm like, what does that even mean?
Right. Yeah.
But like, there's just there's so much expenses. It'd be different if you were like renting out the basement or something.
Exactly.
But if you're just living in your house, you might as well just own all the rentals, and then you're not worrying about the expenses when things break in your own house. So it's an interesting concept. So you've been in sub 2 since March. And obviously, I know you've been networking a ton because that's what we do.
Yep.
But what are you working on? What's like your avenue in real estate?
Sure. Yeah. So after again learning and trying to figure things out, my focus now is raising capital. I want to start investing in like multifamily, potentially commercial. I'm going to start a fund of funds, and I'm looking at a few deals I want to like put that money into. So.
Okay. So what, and I know you're like just getting started with some of this stuff, but like private money. So let's get into that. What is that? What do you need it for? How can you get it? What types of deals is private money going into? Like, take us into that a little bit.
Sure. Yeah. So there's different types of private money, right? So since I'm focusing on multifamily, I'll talk about that. So setting up a fund of funds, right? And again, I'm still learning, and it's very high level, so I might say something incorrect. So hopefully nobody, butchers me for that. But But yeah, so for multifamily, right, like in a fund of funds, there's two exemptions, right? Because I think when you do a fund of funds, you're actually like selling a security.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I don't even know exactly how to explain that to people, but like you got to get the SEC involved, like a lot of regulations, right? So, but there's exemptions, and there's like a 506B and a 506C. So I want to do a 506C, which means I want to raise money from accredited investors. And then, pool money together to potentially buy some type of, apartment complex. So that's pretty much it. Again, I'm not an expert yet, definitely learning.
Yeah. So private money is just, finding people with the money and putting their money to work in assets that will give them a return. And you would play, people that raise money could play many different roles. They could play, like, they could not be putting any money themselves in. They could be, general partners, more like controlling of the asset, more of like the sweat equity type of work. And then you have, like limited partners is who you're raising the money from. So tell us, and because I know like very little about this, but tell us like what a fund of fund is.
Yeah. So a fund of fund would be considered like a limited partner, right? The general partners are the ones that are running the syndication. I hope that's correct. God, please don't crucify me. But yeah, that would be like a limited partnership, right? So you don't have say in what they do with the property. But I'm diving deeper into Vina Jetty's group. She's the multifamily mentor. I'm actually going to her mastermind at the end of October. That's nice. Going to be Scottsdale. Yeah, I'm pretty excited about that. It's gonna be like 4 days. But yeah, doing a fund of funds, is like the easiest thing to do to kind of get your foot in the door, right? Because trying to source a multifamily deal is not easy. There's so many moving parts, right? Again, a lot of legal things you need to consider. And even like the terminology is different from single family, right? So, and those deals can take 6 months, 12 months, longer, right? Like way longer than a single family deal.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so that's why, like, for me, my strengths and my skill sets or my superpowers is networking, right? I love talking to people, love building relationships. So I feel like transitioning into raising capital makes sense for me, because then it doesn't feel like it's working, right? It's just kind of like fun.
Yeah, no, that's cool. And I feel like I haven't gotten into like, raising money yet or anything, but like, I feel like it's just, it's kind of like, it's just like this progression. And I'm working, in like single family doing wholesaling and stuff, but I'm also really active on social media. And so like, I think it all just kind of like goes together. And then at some point, I can do some of these different things where, I could raise money and, and I've been able to connect with a lot of people. And so, I think, it all kind of plays in together. But fund of funds, so that's like, basically like you're raising money for somebody that already has
some kind of deal.
A deal. So like Vina Jetty has an apartment complex they're going to buy. And you are just kind of like a branch off of that, where you, like your own business is going to raise money that flows into, that asset.
Correct.
So you're like raising money for her, but it's awesome because you get to, you get to like learn, and you get to be involved in that. And so
yeah, you get visibility.
Yeah, and so it's like, and you have like so much credibility too, because like you're working with Vina,
right.
And you can do fund of funds with anybody that's doing these types of deals, but Vina's just the person that we know.
Exactly.
And so it's a super cool opportunity. I mean, at some point, I'd love to maybe try fund of funds and raise some money and kind of learn a little bit that way, because it's a great way to get into multifamily. Like, you raise the money, see how it works, and you probably get to be a part of some of the meetings or the calls, and you know, ask some questions. So that's really cool.
I would love to learn how to get my own multifamily deal, right, and be a GP. That would be a great experience. But I definitely, like, if anything, raising funds is like the priority, because you know, I'm starting to learn from all the other mentors, right? Like, you need to raise funds for everything: single family, multifamily, commercial, buying businesses, right? You need money to do things, right? So honing in and developing that skill is probably my priority.
Yeah, that's a super good skill to have, because there's always all these deals pretty much require money. Even like, you know, we hear about like the zero down deals, like a lot of that's like money is involved, but it's just that person isn't bringing the money, somebody else is. And so that's
leveraging other people's money is how people acquire wealth, right? Like the common, I don't even know what the word is, but like common knowledge is like, you think you have to be rich to do things, right? You have to have the money. But rich people or wealthy business people are actually using other people's money, right? So that's what I'm trying to learn.
Which is leverage. You're leveraging, you can leverage anything, leverage resources, like resources, other people's money. You leverage debt. That's how a lot of people, you know, get wealthy. They leverage banks to be able to have these cash flowing assets. So yeah, super good point. So when you're like meeting a lot of people, networking, like what's like the best way to do that? Like what do you try to focus on, or what are some of like your goals going into a conversation? And I don't know, maybe I asked this because you know, I want to get better at it too, but I'm sure there's also people that, like, you know, haven't been to like a real estate meetup or some sort of event, and they don't like talking to people. So how do you go about doing it?
Yeah, you know, it's always just a conversation, right? I'm not trying to sell anything, right? I'm presenting people with opportunities and piquing their interest, right? And it's not something I'm trying to close on the first conversation. You have to build rapport, right? People are going to entrust, you know, them or you with their money. So they're not just going to give it to a stranger. So, you know, you really need to develop that relationship. But, you know, I just talk about what I'm doing, right? So for example, right, like I invested in someone else's fund of funds into Vina's deal in Arizona. And so now I'm technically, you know, part owner of that. So that's like 432 units. So I just tell people about that. You know, I tell them that story. And then, you know, hopefully they ask me like, well, how did you do that? And, you know, what are the benefits and whatnot? But, you know, if people ask, it's usually, you know, we're trying to give investors, you know, a higher yield than what they would get in the bank, in the stock market right now, right? Backed by, you know, a solid asset, right? Real estate, you know, so it's secure. It's always appreciating. I mean, there's always ups and downs, right? But yeah, something like that.
Yeah. That's important. Just like focusing on building like rapport and just building a relationship, because that's kind of how I go about it too. I'm like, I'm not like, I don't really go to people and I'm like, oh, this, you know, I could get this person to do, you know, we could do this or that. Like, it's more just like, hey, let's have a good conversation and see what our goals are, and what, you know, kind of what page we're both on, and see if there's something there. But it's also a lot about just like building the relationship over time. And a huge thing you said too was like telling them what you're doing. And as far for like, so for you invested in Venus deal, so it just shows that, like, you know, you're doing it too. You're not asking somebody to do something that you haven't done. And I think that can be tough in the beginning, because, like, you know, me getting started, it's like I was really just mostly active on social media just to like share the process and just share, like, you know, kind of the highs and the lows. And it took a while. And I felt like, you know, I was still going to these things, and everybody talks about like imposter syndrome and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it can be tough because like you're having these conversations with people who are, that have big businesses or whatever the case may be. And so you're just, and you're somebody that's like just getting started. But, I think it's just important to like be yourself and be honest and say, I haven't done my first deal, or I haven't, but, but if you like work towards it and you're knowledgeable and stuff, and you just focus on the relationship, I think that's kind of the most important thing. So,
well, I want to just piggyback off that. So, recruiting is sales, and I've been doing sales for like 17 years now. So, I am very fortunate that I had some capital to deploy to kind of get my first deal, right? To develop that credibility with people. My advice for people like you, like maybe don't have money to do something like that yet, right? Is, they always talk about like JVing, right? Or you want to align yourself with someone who has that reputation somehow, right? And again, it's not going to happen overnight, but then you can reference them like, my partner has done this, and be honest, right? I've never done this, but I'm working with someone who's done this, who's been proven. So at least it's showing some kind of credibility, right? Mm-hmm. But then again, it's like, if you develop the relationship and this person likes you, trusts you, thinks you're a good person, that's where like it goes over the line of when they're willing to do something with you, because a lot of people with no experience, have people trust them with their money or whatnot, but they got to like you, right? You can't be a jerk.
Yeah. That's good, because and we talk about that all the time, like in sub 2, is like just finding the person that knows it or does it. And that's exactly, and that's cool with like, being in sub 2 and having a community, is like, we can say like, oh yeah, like, we're doing this, or my partner's doing this, or and it's, because we're all working together. But that's something that like helped me too with in the beginning. Like I worked with Kevin Cho. And that's, exactly. He helped me with my first deal. And so like it just at that time, like it gave me a lot of credibility, just like showing that I was working with him. I think he's killing it. He's doing he's closed on a ton of deals this year. And at that time, like, we were able to show kind of what he had done like this year already when we presented our offer. And so it just showed like even more credibility. So, and I think that's tough too, because like, I think a lot of times we just want to be the person. We want to be the guy that does it, and we can do it all. And like I there's situations where I'm like that, but getting into business and real estate, like every day I'm just like, all right, like who can help me with this, or who has done this? And it just helps you go so much faster. So it's like, I've had to learn how to kind of, how do you say it? Like kind of put the pride to the side and like, work together. And so, and then there's things that I can help other people with that, that they struggle with. So it's like, it's just finding the people that you can, that have different strengths in you and putting them all together. So, that's good. So what, like getting into real estate, what's been for you, like one of the most challenging things?
Yeah, I think it's the knowledge, right? So coming into this, not knowing anything, right? Like the only thing I knew about is like buy a house for yourself, which I couldn't even do. Real estate is very robust. There's so many things to do. Like I walked into sub 2 thinking real estate investing was buy a house and rent it out. I didn't know anything about wholesaling. I didn't know anything about all that stuff, right? So comping and underwriting and all the things that we do, right? It's actually very complicated. And everyone thinks like, oh, you're going to be a real estate agent? I'm like, no, that's not what I'm trying to do.
Oh my gosh.
They're like, are you getting your license? I'm like, no, that's not what I'm trying to do. So, Yeah, my biggest struggle in the beginning was just trying to understand, like what I wanted to do, what my lane was, right? Wholesaling wasn't for me. And then I switched to like wanting to do midterm rentals. That made sense for me because, like short-term rentals is time consuming and also the government's kind of cracking down. So that wasn't attractive to me. And, obviously you always want to have long-term rentals as your exit strategy, but you want to make some better cash flow. So midterm rentals sounded great to me, but because I wasn't wholesaling, I was trying to develop relationships with wholesalers. And, unfortunately, I just couldn't find a deal that when I underwrote it made sense for me. Right. Mm-hmm. So, and then the next thing that happened was I went to Montana, right, for community camp. And, I met my integrator, Julia Scholes. She'll be on video with me pretty soon. But, she helped me see what my strengths were, and she was very supportive, and she likes to do things I don't, and I like to do things she doesn't. So it was like a perfect match. And, we're planning to, do this fun things together. So.
Yeah. Having, I haven't like kind of found that person that I could work with as an integrator. And I'm literally reading Rocket Fuel right now. And it's just so fascinating. And it's part of that, like what I was just saying of like, finding your strengths and finding somebody else's and kind of putting those together. But with an integrator, obviously that's like someone who you are in business with, like that's your business partner. And so that's cool. I remember when you guys met up there, or like I remember you talking about that, and so that's a super, super cool opportunity.
And I would have never met her, right? Like if I didn't go. So again, it's like the importance of being in front of people. Like that's why like we developed OCJV, right? Like we wanted to get people together and show them that like, hey, we want to help each other, It's really hard to do it over the phone and over like a Zoom,
Yeah. It's not always quite the same. And I think a lot of our world, a lot of our world got put into that with COVID. And I think it still at times hasn't fully come back from that. But right. I love the in-person stuff for sure. And another thing, I get the agent thing all the time, and it's like so frustrating because I'm like I've been active on social media for a while, and I specifically, that's why like if in videos like I say like I say real estate investor like a lot, because like if I just say, oh, I'm in real estate, like that's what people go to. But even though I say like real estate investor, I still get people that like think I'm an agent, and I'm just like, no.
Yeah, people don't know.
But that's the interesting thing is that like when I first like found out about real estate and stuff, like no one told us like growing up that you could be a real estate investor, like you could own assets and build wealth, like, and I wish we would have been learning about that, but we didn't. And so I think so it's like I get why people think that is because when I heard real estate before, I probably would have thought the same thing. So yeah, agents and investments, two totally different things.
Exactly. Yeah. And you have a much head start than me, so you're good. When you say younger, you mean when you were in elementary school?
Yeah, like when I was like, well, not in elementary school, but like when I was like in high school, like trying to figure out like, what career I wanted to pursue, or like even after high school, like just figuring out kind of what the route was. Cause I was going to school for aviation, and that was really the only thing like I felt that like I wanted to do. Like I'd always loved airplanes. I loved like being at the airport and just traveling. And, but then like at the same time that it still kind of felt like that there was maybe something out there. And then when I like found real estate, I was like, I was obsessed. But but yeah, they just don't teach that stuff. And like, so you just don't know that you can actually be the one that owns the assets and, you know, collects rent and all that stuff. So,
Yeah.
So like let's go over the different ways to make money in real estate real quick, because there's a lot, and you mentioned a couple.
Yeah.
But I think I was the same way. Like when I got into it, I had just learned about like long-term rentals. That's like that's because the person I was learning from, that's all they talked about. And so once I like started seeing some other stuff, like I found Jerry Norton, and so I'm like, oh, okay, there's like this thing called wholesaling. That's pretty cool. And then, you know, you start learning about it. So what's like, so you have like single family, multifamily, commercial, but like, what are some of the different strategies? Like, let's,
like exit strategies?
Yeah, just share with these guys. So like you mentioned like short-term rental, like stuff like that. So just go into them for a second.
Yeah. So, you know, the typical one's long-term rental, right? Like a 12-month lease. Midterm rental is defined as 30 days or more. You know, when I was focusing on that, I was going to focus on like traveling medical professionals, traveling corporate employees, or like insurance claims. Like, let's say your house, I don't know, flooded and you needed a place to live for like the next couple months while it got fixed, that type of thing. Short-term rental is, I think, 7 days or less, right? So that's like Airbnb, VRBO. I don't know what the other, you know, platforms are.
Yeah.
So, and then
under 30 days.
Oh, under 30 days. Oh yeah, under 30 days. Right. Yeah, exactly. But like the typical is like Airbnb.
But
right?
yeah, like
which again, you know, if you're following the news, the government's cracking down on. So it doesn't sound very attractive, which, you know, I mean, there's still a lot of people successful in it, right? Because they've been doing it, or they have a niche. Like, I know there's one guy in sub 2 that has like themed houses. So like, that's cool, you know, like bachelorette houses, stuff like that. So it's a way to stand out. And then exit strat, right? Like novations, right? So that's something like you make an agreement with the seller that like you fix the house, but then you sell it after, right? And again, I didn't really focus on that stuff. Wraps, I think that's something very complicated. I don't even want to like, you could probably talk about that. What else is there? Fix and flips. I think that's something that's pretty common. People know that. I don't know. I mean, obviously sub 2, right? Like creative finance. I would probably let you explain that since.
Yeah. So there's so much. You have stuff that you can do in single family. You have stuff in multifamily, which is over, like you have single family, you have small multifamily that's like 2 to 4 units, and then 5 units and up is like larger multifamily stuff, like more commercial stuff. And then you have different ways to acquire all that. So, you know, you can use creative finance. You can find them through wholesalers, you know, and you can buy them traditionally through banks. But, you know, and then like you said, all the fix and flip, short-term rental, midterm rental, like all really good stuff. Now there's even some more like pad split. That's kind of one that's been coming up, which is like essentially creating like kind of more units in the house and renting them out to
co-living, right?
So, but yeah, creative finance, subject to seller finance. Seller finance is when you use when the seller doesn't have a mortgage and they essentially become the bank, and you can kind of negotiate them with whatever terms you guys come up with. And then subject to is when you take over an existing mortgage. So, and you're also not qualifying for that. The mortgage is staying in the seller's name. The deed goes in your name or your business name. And it's super cool because you don't have to get qualified, and which becomes a problem for investors at times, because like you can only have so many mortgages in your name, or we're self-employed. And so that's my issue right now, is like self-employed. So showing like, you know, all this stuff can be tricky to get approved. So with creative finance, like there's just so many more options. So, so I guess we probably talked about it a little bit, but what are some of your strengths? So it sounds like, you know, you're really good at like networking, talking with people. What else like are you good at so that people can, come to you so you guys can work together?
Sure. Yeah. So, like I said, I've been a recruiter. So, hiring people, I know how to hire top talent. You need to learn how to screen, ask the right questions, really understand what type of person you're hiring. You don't just hire someone with a pulse, right? Mm-hmm. So, I've heard a lot of people within the group that they're having a lot of churn, which, is normal in sales, right? That's the highest churn occupation. But there are ways to retain talent, ways to identify top talent. But each person, each company has different requirements, right? Or expectations. So that's my number one strength. Or not my number one, probably my number two. Yeah. Networking, right? Building rapport, developing relationships. I wouldn't say I don't ever want to say like I would be a sales trainer, but like I can give tips on sales, right? Like I know a lot of people are afraid to jump on the phone or like they don't know what to say. So I can give tips on that, like if jumping on the phone, I was just telling someone at OCJV last night, he was worried about getting on the phone. And I said, don't be scared. Like you don't even see them. They're on the other side of the phone. Like if they say something that whatever, just hang up, right? Or if they hang up on you, then just brush it off and keep on going, right? Because you're never going to speak to that person again or never see them in person. So don't take it personal, right? So, and then, I'm raising capital, and I'm learning as well. So if that's an avenue you want to explore, I'd love to share what I know so far. And after the mastermind, I'm, happy to share what I've learned as well. And, once I start getting into deals, I'll be needing to find partners, so like the three parts of a multifamily deal is like capital raising, operations, and I think like underwriting, right? So I need to find like a established high-end operator, someone who can do, high-level underwriting. So yeah, those are kind of the few things that we can partner up with or how I can help people with.
Awesome. So it sounds like, people can come to you with like maybe some networking tips, some recruiting stuff. You got a lot of experience with that. And if they want to get into, like private money, you're working on that, but stuff. So if you're like just getting started and you want to raise private money, Brenda could, she can talk to you with what she knows. She can probably even point you in the right direction to some of the resources that have helped her learn what she does know. So awesome. And how can people like work with you? Like, what are you needing right now?
Yeah. I want to see multifamily deals, probably on the smaller side, right? Nothing like 65 million or crazy or whatever, but I don't know, probably like between the 5 to 50 doors type of size, okay. Right? And then landlord friendly states, right? Arizona, Vegas, Carolinas. Yeah. Okay. I like that, yeah.
Cool. Yeah. So send her some deals.
Or, people that want to deploy capital, right? And are not looking to get it back quickly, right? Because I think a lot of multifamily deals are like 5 years, I might raise capital for some single family stuff, but that's going to be kind of like a onesie, twosie type of thing. So.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. So people that need to place money, get a hold of Brenda. If you have some multifamily deals that you need to, need someone to buy them, so bring them to her.
Yeah. One other thing. So OCJV is our community, but also like the leaders, we're all partners together. So we are looking to invest in Orange County. So if anyone is wholesaling in Orange County or looking to become a wholesaler in Orange County, or is a real estate agent or a buyer or a underwriter or a TC, a transaction coordinator, check out our Orange County JV page or connect with me directly through Brenda Rose Invests. We definitely want to meet with you and partner up with you.
Awesome. Yeah, connect with her on social media. And thank you for coming on. That was great. I learned a couple things, and still trying to get used to kind of the whole podcast thing, and I think it went really well. So thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, we'll talk to you later. Have a good day.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.